All right, so if you've just brought home a brand new Instant Pot Nova and are wondering where to get started, where to begin, we've got you. So I'm Jen.
And I'm Barbara.
And we're with Pressure Cooking Today.
So the Nova is a newer model.
Yep, the Duo is the classic one that's been around for ages.
And it's got an upgraded display.
And nice lid features. We really like the lid.
Yeah, so the display is an LCD.
LCD, it's fancy. It's much bigger than the original Duo, and it's got more information on the screen. It's blue.
Tells you what's going on inside the pot.
Yep. So,
And it also has a nicer steam release. So instead of having to switch the button up here, your hand's a little bit further away from it, and it has this button that you press to vent the steam, and then just twist.
Your Instant Pot is basically made up of 3 parts. You've got your lid, you've got your stainless steel inner pot, and then you've got your housing. Now, inside your housing, you have a heating element that turns on and heats the liquid in your pot to build up that pressure. You never, ever, 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 ever want to pour liquids into your housing.
Yeah, you always cook with the inner pot in place.
Yeah. Some people, if they've got their, say they want to measure everything into their stainless steel pot somewhere else, they'll put like a wooden spoon or something on top just to remind them as a visual cue, like, hey, I know you're in a hurry, but you're not in that big of a hurry.
Right, so if your inner pot is in the dishwasher, they just leave the spoon there until they put the inner pot back into place.
So the inner pot on the Duo is compatible with any of the other plain round Instant Pots. So if you already have a Duo, the Duo Nova pot will fit the same pot, so you can have more than one. It has kind of like the circles on the bottom, and it's a little bit domed, so that when you put it in place, it comes in contact with the heating element. But it can mean that, like when you're sautéing things, your butter or your oil will start to run to the sides. So you just pick up your pot, kind of give it a little swirl to get it over evenly. If it's cooking too hot,
you can just lift it up away from the heating element, and that will slow it down.
Yep. So next up is the lid. So we kind of already talked about the lid. It's just got your steam release. This is where the steam actually comes out. Lock it in place. So this is removable. You can take it off to clean it. It's kind of jiggly when you put it on. You can kind of see it kind of wiggles around. That's okay. That's perfectly normal. It's not broken. It's working the way it should. And then it's got this little float valve right here. That's what raises up when the pot's at pressure and seals it up. You can see it pops up nice and high. On the underside of the lid, you've got this silver ring, which is where your silicone gasket goes. You've got your float valve right here. And then you've got this anti-block shield that prevents any foam from getting up into your steam release. Sometimes it can be a little tight to pull off, especially when it's new. If that happens, you can use a knife?
Yeah, I like sometimes get a butter knife and just slide it under there and it'll pop it off.
You can also, the hardware store sells these little like chair leg covers. They're little rubber chair leg covers. They happen to be the perfect size to just push on and pull your gasket off or your block shield off. These get a lot easier to take out after a couple times. They're fit pretty tight. At first, I didn't think it came off. I'm like, Mom, it's not coming off. She's like, oh, you just got to be tough with it.
You can get a little bit of dirty whatever sauce or what inside there. So that's you want to remove the shield and just make sure you keep that nice and clean.
Yep. So just pop that back in place. It just pushes on. And then you've got your silicone ring. This ring comes with your pressure cooker. Some models come with 2. And you can always buy an extra one online.
Right. I think with the Nova, they send it with a white one, a clear one like this, and a red one.
Yep. And that just helps you know the difference between your 2 rings, which one you're going to use for your sweet foods versus which one you're going to use for your savory foods. So you see how you just kind of run your finger around until it's all the way pressed down. If you have just a part of it up, when you lock the lid in place, this is going to allow steam to escape. So you want to just make sure it's down nice and tight all the way around. Looks pretty good.
Right, and I always take this gasket out for cleaning it, and you just grab it and pull it out. And then there's also this little gasket here on the float valve, and I just put my finger up inside there, pull the
little mini gasket
off, and then I just let that drop into my hand. And then I just usually wash this by hand and put it back in as soon as it's done washing, because you don't want to lose that. And this just fits back on, just snaps right into place.
So, Mom, you often dishwasher wash your inner pot, right?
Right, my inner pot I put in the dishwasher. The lid I usually wash by hand, but some people actually put the lid in the top rack of their dishwasher.
It's whatever works best for
Yeah,
you. I baby my pots and I hand wash the whole thing.
So yeah, it just takes up too much space, I find, because I've got lots of glasses all the time. So I prefer to wash that. But it's really whatever you prefer.
Yeah, if you do wash this by hand, you want to be careful not to submerge it in the water. So if you've got a big thing of soapy dish suds and you put it right in, that it kind of gets tricky to like drain out all the way. So I like to just get a nice soapy dish rag, wash the top all around real good, wash this, and then just kind of rinse it real good and call it good. So now let's talk the buttons. That's one of the biggest questions we get.
What button do I use? It's so confusing.
And there's so many. Like, say you want to cook a chicken soup. Do you use the poultry button or the soup button or the meat button? And the answer is that these buttons are just preset cook times.
Yeah, it doesn't know what you have in the pot. It can't tell if you're cooking pasta or a roast or
if it's a
chicken.
big old chunk of like whole chicken or little tiny bits of chicken. Like it doesn't know. It's just a preset cook time that the people at Instant Pot created to as a guide. They say most chicken takes about this long to cook, so we'll do that. But we find we get a little bit more precision. We get better results when using a custom cook time. So all of our recipes use just 2 buttons for like 99.9% of our meals. We've got the sauté button and we've got the pressure cook button.
So let's talk about the sauté button.
Okay, so the sauté button you want to use with the lid off, just like you would with on a pot on the stove. Its job is what, like melting butters for cooking onions,
Right.
or
You want to sauté your onions or you want to brown some meats.
Mm-hmm.
You can also use the sauté button at the end of pressure cooking to thicken a sauce. So we'll often do a cornstarch slurry and thicken sauces at the end.
and the sauté button works really great for that because your sauce won't thicken until the cornstarch reaches a certain temperature. So it's a nice, easy shortcut to kind of keep all of your cooking in one pot.
Because you always want to cook with a thin liquid.
Yes, it needs to be like a water-based liquid, not like a milk or a dairy, but something like a chicken broth or apple juice or water. We use a lot of water. So to use the sauté button, you simply just press the sauté button, and if you press it once, it will turn on and it will be at normal temperature. If you press the sauté button again, it will adjust it to more, and if you press it again, it will adjust it to less, and it just kind of goes 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3 until you're done.
So I use normal for sautéing onions and celery, that kind of thing. And if I want to get a nice sear, I always use more.
I basically just always use normal because I kind of forget to adjust it.
And when I want a sauce just to thicken, then I'll sauté it on less.
And I just use normal again. Again, it's just a matter of preference, what works best for you. If my sauce is starting to cook too fast, I'll just lift it up a little bit away from there.
One thing you should be aware of on the sauté button is it says hot.
Yes, so when you push the sauté button, you'll push it. It will kind of pause for a minute. The Duo Nova does not have a start button. So you push the button, and then after so many seconds of not touching anything, it will beep to let you know that it's engaged. The display will turn to read on, and on the Nova, it's got this really cool little fire in the pot thing. That is not the burn notice. A lot of people, brand new cooks, get worried like, oh no, it's the burn notice. Nope, it's your signal that the sauté button is on. It's preheating.
That's right. It just means that the heat is on. It'll go off and on occasionally to let you know that the heat is turned off for a second, and that's how it maintains its temperature. It goes on and off.
Once it's ready, it will read hot. And that's usually the point that I add in if I'm cooking with like canola oil or olive oil. I wait until it says hot before I add those.
Especially if you're browning meat, you want to make sure it says hot, and then you can get a good sear on that meat.
Yeah. All right, so let's move on to the pressure cook button.
Yeah, that's the workhorse button, the one that we use all the time.
Yeah, so you just simply press the pressure cook button. You'll notice, just like sauté, if you press the pressure cook button again, it will adjust to low or more. That is not the pressure level. The pressure level is not going to less or more. That's just a preset cook time. So say you cook a lot of rice, I keep my low button adjusted to rice all the time because we make a lot of rice. So if I hit my pressure cook button twice, it just is automatically set up at a 3-minute cook time for my rice, and we're good to go.
And the display will say less.
Yes, but that's not a pressure thing. You'll still see less, and you'll still see high pressure because it's still cooking at high pressure. It's just another shortcut. So
right, if you wanted to change the pressure, there's a pressure level button, and that would change it from low to high.
Again, 99% of our recipes cook at high pressure. When you're ready to pressure cook, there's a couple things you do before you press that pressure cook button. One, like we talked about, make sure your stainless steel pot is in there. 2, make sure that you have a liquid in the pot and ready to go. I can't tell you how frustrating it is to like be in a hurry and you quick put your stuff in there and you hit pressure cook and the pressure cook setting runs and it never cooks anything, because if you don't have a liquid in there, it's not going to create steam and it's not going to cook. So double check that you got your liquid. This is a 6-quart Duo Nova, and kind of the average amount of liquid you want in your Nova is a 1 cup. Let's pour that in. If you're cooking foods that release a lot of liquid while they cook, like berries or...
Yeah, you can get away with a little bit less, but only if the recipe that you're using specifies that until you learn.
Yeah, especially when you're a beginner. You want to make sure that you're following a trusted recipe. So you've checked the pot's in place, you've checked there's water in the pot. Next, check to make sure that silicone ring that we talked about is in place fully. And then you'll want to match up the lid. You see how there's kind of this bigger notch side, and there's the bigger notch side on the pressure cooker. You just put them down and you line up, there's little arrows right there. You want to line up the arrows and then twist it into the locked position.
So that's all there is to it. We're going to go ahead and...
Once the lid's in place, you can hit the pressure cook button, and then you use the plus and minus buttons to adjust the time. And then again, there's no start button, so you just wait a minute and it'll beep to let you know it's started, and it will change to read on.
So we'll go ahead and get it started, and then you'll see how the float valve rises up, and then we'll talk about pressure releases.
Once it beeps, you see the display reads on, and it's got that little fire icon again. That just means that it is building pressure, it's heating up.
Right, it'll say on until it actually comes to pressure, and then the time will start to count down.
Yep, so you may hear the float valve release a little bit of steam or release a little bit or wobble a little bit as it's coming to pressure. That's totally normal. While you need enough steam to escape, that it pops that little float valve up. So again, like that doesn't mean your sealing ring's in the wrong spot. If you see steam coming out the sides or around the edges, that means there's probably a problem. Your sealing ring hasn't been pushed in place. But if it's just coming out from that little float valve spot, that's totally normal.
That's exactly what you want. And this will rise up and it'll seal up the pot, and then it'll allow it to come to pressure.
Yeah.
The time may not show up
immediately
when this is all the way risen. It just will take a little bit longer for it to actually come to pressure inside the pot.
The cook time doesn't start until it reaches the actual like PSI required inside the pot for like ideal pressure conditions, right? So you see that float valve popped right up into place, but it's still not counting down yet. So we just have to wait an extra minute. All right, so at this point, the cook time is ended and it is time to choose a pressure release. Your recipe will usually direct you as to what you need to do. There's 2 kinds of releases, a quick pressure release and
a natural pressure release. The natural pressure release, you don't do anything. The pressure will automatically release. You don't have to press a button or anything. It just takes a lot longer.
It's a slow and gentle release, and eventually that float valve will drop and you'll be able to unlock your lid. The other option is a quick pressure release, and that one's kind of the more exciting one that gets all the attention. You push this button down,
and the steam will come out from the steam release valve.
Yep. It'll be a big jet of steam, so you want to make sure your hands aren't over it. You want to make sure your face isn't over it when you push that button. And then once that float valve drops, you'll be able to twist and remove your lid. And you want to make sure you open it away from yourself. And then you notice the lid has these little fins on it. It just fits right nicely into these handles while you are cooking and seeing what's going on in the pot. Once the cooking cycle has finished, you've released the pressure, you'll notice that there's a little keep warm button down here that has a little light on. When that keep warm light is on, it means that the heat plate in the bottom is still going to heat it at a very low temperature, like 120 degrees, something like that.
So the reason you'd want to use a keep warm setting is if you had to run and get the kids from school and you just wanted your soup to be ready when they got home.
It's really nice when you're serving a big crowd to know that, you know, soup stays pretty warm in a pressure cooker anyways, but it's just a little extra comfort to know. The one time it's a problem is when like you dish everybody up and everybody's eating their rice, and then you come back to a pot like an hour later, you forgot about it, and the layer of rice is kind of dried onto the bottom. So if you tend to be a little bit spacey, I often will just turn off my pressure cookers so I don't run into that problem.
You can also turn off the keep warm setting before you pressure cook. So
Yep.
You have to do it before.
Yep, just push that button and it will turn that keep warm setting off for you.
Or you can do it afterwards.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Press the keep warm button on the front.
Just not during.
Yes, not during. The keep warm setting, a lot of people say, well, does it slow down the natural release? No, it does not. Whether you have the keep warm setting on or off, your release time will be the same because the keep warm setting doesn't kick in until after the pressure has been released. So that's the Duo Nova. It's got a lot of nice features.
It's one I use regularly in my kitchen. I really, really love it. So if you found this video helpful, we'd love to have you like and subscribe. And we've got a ton of great beginner content on our website.
Right, we have an ebook.
Yeah, we have an ebook. If you sign up for our email subscription, link in the description, we will send you a recipe a week. And
our beginner's course.
Oh yeah, we have a beginner's course that we teach a few times a year. So we'll have a link in the description of that as well.
We'll leave all those links in the description. Thanks for joining us.
Enjoy cooking.